editorial team. I'm part of the editorial team of the Journal of the Institute. And we had published the paper in our journal only for this particular person that published in the journal to contact us that he found exactly his paper, his work published in another journal online, because he had done the research some years earlier and wanted to just build up on it. So he just was doing background and to find out what's up in this area to go back to it. And he found that word for word, his paper was plagiarized. That's global plagiarism. So we had to write, and it became messy. And then the supervisors in that school, I can't remember if it was India or I think it's one of these Asian countries. Eventually they retracted the paper and all of that, but that's global plagiarism. There's verbatim plagiarism, and this is like copying parts of somebody's work, okay? There's also the concept of paraphrasing, okay, which eventually what you do is you change words and twist things around. There's also patchwork plagiarism, where you copy from different sources and you gum it together, glue it together. And there's self-plagiarism, where you think, it's me, it's my original idea, and then you just copy it and paste it. So there's self-plagiarism. All of this type of plagiarism is shunned or frowned at in academic writing. So the point of talking about plagiarism here is that you must retain your authenticity. One of the ways to prevent plagiarism is such that you think things through. Read some of these things. As a person, I'm more of an hard copy person. So I print out stuffs and then I put my original thoughts in notes. Now we're talking about, climate change and all of that, deforestation, papers we make from trees. So you can come up with, instead of having to copy and paste stuff from publications or from wherever you find them, you can actually download them, read them, get a journal, or type your thoughts. You could even record your thoughts, reading a particular paper, and then go back to your thoughts and write out your original idea. So the idea is to retain your authenticity, because it's all about making sure that the idea is yours. The structure of presentation of the idea should also be yours, even if you are borrowing from what is already done. And that is all we're trying to emphasize here, the concept of plagiarism. Now, there's the new one now, which you have to bother about, which is artificial intelligence. Because this one now, people could just say to ChatGPT, I want to write something, write introduction. Like, I think somebody told me that they've written a whole thesis from ChatGPT. So is it that artificial intelligence is bad? No, because essentially what we use is we simulate human intelligence, and we try to solve problems. It helps us to be a little bit more effective. In fact, I would dare say very effective. And it depends on the way you use it. It could be a distraction or an enhancement. One way we think about using AI is to get basic knowledge of the subject matter, okay? So again, the emphasis is not to lose your authenticity when you are even using AI, in academic writing. You must set those boundaries and you must keep to it, such that, yes, you use it to get basic knowledge. Okay, an example, for instance, is if I wanted to make jollof rice, okay, and then I just needed the recipe. I'm not asking ChatGPT to cook the jollof rice for me. Okay, I can ask a basic recipe for making jollof rice, do the modifications to the jollof rice myself the way I want it. For instance, if I wanted coconut jollof rice, basic recipe for jollof rice, and do my own stuff to make it my own. So authenticity is a very key thing when it comes to academic writing. So that's why we talked about plagiarism and the role of artificial intelligence in this. So this image shows you all of the ways in which, like I said, we can deploy AI. We can use it across all the spectrum. We can use it to develop ideas. We can use it to, content development and structuring, in literature review, in editing our work, original work, in making it better, in communication, in data management. It's very useful. But again, it could be a distraction, an enhancement, and be careful not to cross the line of authenticity. So another skill is data analysis. Okay, this time, part of what we do on this forum is we teach data analysis. And I know that that's the next set of classes we're going to be talking about. You know, there's R, there's Python, there's SPSS, that even Excel. You can use Excel to analyze data. So you need to be, data analysis helps you to hone your work. I mean, there's really no big problem with having people analyze your data for you. But being a part of the process in this day and time, okay, is a very important skill that is valued in academic researchers. Now, communication skills and interpersonal skills. As I said earlier when I talked about research integrity, respect, okay? So respect comes in communication and interpersonal skills. You have to be mindful about, this is a skill that you have to build. You don't want to be a researcher that's going to be on your own and not be able to leverage and help within your community, or people, you know, just label you that person has an attitude or this. So communication is very important, because all round, whether you're a researcher or not, in academics, very important, and interpersonal relationships. Now, I talked about at-homeness with the basics as the next skill toolkit that we're going to talk about, okay? So knowing the basics of your field. And this aspect I want to narrow in is in studying to retain knowledge. I know that it could be very challenging, okay? If you have a mind of, you're in school currently, an undergrad, a master's, a PhD student, or even you're already done with PhD, it's important to study to retain knowledge. Okay, you need to keep the knowledge and build on it, because that is the only way in which you can make any sense or ownership, you know, with respect to your knowledge base. Okay, after all, that's what is important, the knowledge base. Now, the third toolkit is goal setting. Okay, we look at goals from the perspective of SMART. It's something that is very popular also in the secular world, okay? Other things other than academics research, okay? So SMART, your goals have to be specific. It must be measurable, because you should be able to track it and look at the trend. It should be actionable. So I remember when I wanted to do my PhD research, I remember when I met one of the professors in Unilag now, and he asked me, said, what's your PhD research going to be about? So I told him, I said, I wanted to do molecular genetics of a particular type of cancer in Nigeria. And the man looked at me like, he said, do I have funding from WHO? Have funding from maybe Bill and Melinda Gates? Like, where are you going to get money to do that? So I had this high lofty goal that was not actionable, and at the same time, not realistic, because the PhD program is defined. It has a timeline, which brings me to time bound. Okay. So a lot of the times when your goals are not actionable, in the sense that step-by-step way and realisticness, it already moves down to affecting the fact that you're not focusing on time, okay, with respect to the goal. Now, as academicians, I listed some goals that, you know, we think about. New skill acquisition, okay, is something that we need to keep building on in our area. Pay attention to your field and make sure that you're acquiring those new skills. Your academic goal as a student, you're an undergrad, you're a master's student. What kind of grade do you need to come out? You want to study abroad, the school you want to go, it's academic, very important. Your career goals, what is your plan? Okay, how do you want to lay it out? What do I want to do in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? And there's the last one, which I call networking goals. Okay, now part of networking goals is the kind of forum that we provide here, the Knowledge and Skill Forum, okay, where you can, okay, be a mentor, a mentee. All about is networking. Now, as a student or as a researcher, networking goals, another way in which you can achieve it is by joining scientific organizations, scientific bodies, okay? Biotechnology Society of Nigeria, Nigeria Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, being those societies, because you keep abreast of the current trends in your area, specifically if there are funding opportunities, collaboration opportunities. Even most societies these days have journals that are recognized, because it's a, you know, it's a society, a body of people with a lot of knowledge, and there's a rigorous peer review, okay, when it comes to publishing in those kind of journals. So networking goals Very important. Set it. How many new people in my area do I want to meet? I've seen somebody on LinkedIn. Reach out. So it's important to keep, because essentially your network is your currency, okay, for you to be able to build on that career. Now, the next toolkit I talk about is mentorship, okay? Now, what are components of mentorship? Okay, mentorship provides support, there's training, there's motivation, career advice. At the end of the day, it all goes towards driving towards success. Now, so your mentor basically, it provides direction and motivation for you to be able to move, and essentially create a path for you as a mentee towards success. But there's something that I want to talk about to remind us. Your mentor creates a path for you. You have to walk the path. So in walking the path, you own your process. So in these days and times, some people will say, I want you to mentor me, and they expect you to literally be doing their work for them. No, you have to walk your path. I can create a path to success as a mentor because I have walked that path. I can tell you that, oh, you have to take the right turn, the left turn, the second right, but you have to actually do the work of walking that path. Own the process for yourself. Now, all-round wellness is another important toolkit. And why do I say this? You have to pay attention to your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, because all of this is linked to your productivity. It is someone who is fine, like what I have on the right here. The person on the top there is stressed up. And I think in the background has some equations. We have applied mathematicians here. If this person obviously does not have all-round wellness, something is missing. It might be emotional, it might be mental, it might be the physical well-being. Then when you look at the person on the bottom right, it looks like there's a lot of activity going on. But they're organized, they don't look like they're not squeezing their face, they're not holding their head. So you have to pay attention to your health, okay, as a researcher. Physical, mental, emotional, all of that plays role, a big role, huge role. It's not limited to that, but those aspects, big role in your productivity. Now, loving relationships, your family and friends. Yes, you have those people that you have in your academic network and all that, but the importance of family and friend cannot be overemphasized. There is no way in the world I'm going to be where I am today without my family. Okay, we know the way it is in Nigeria. My parents, I know what they did. They went through everything to make sure that I got a very good education and I fulfilled my dream to become a researcher. They sponsored my entire education. I have friends that I can't begin to list. Sometimes when the journey was like in Nigeria doing your PhD, like it was very stressful. They were like, Tokwe, you've got to do it, we've got your back. It was a serious support system and shoulder to lean on when you just not be alone, support yourself. People that will carry you even when you're having those low moments. Of course, they're the ones that will eventually help you, be there to celebrate you when you eventually achieve all these milestones, in terms of, all your successes that you achieve. So that is basically what I have to talk about in terms of the concept of academic research today, to lay the background of what we do a little bit earlier. So some of all of these ideas that, I presented to us, these are some of the references from which I got some of these ideas. And I would say, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. We have some questions already for you. So maybe in the next 5 to 10 minutes, we will answer these questions. I have some that were sent during the chat. So please, if you have questions, you can post it on the chat and I'll read it to our facilitator. The first question, person said, you mentioned that what you're talking about today is academic research. And then what will you call other research work that is non-academic? I don't know.
I really don't know. Maybe industrial research.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe basically, the word academic supposes that this is the work we do within a research institution, for instance, a university, university. I'm looking for the right word. Higher institution of learning. Okay, So, and then academic research a lot of the times is geared towards maybe sometimes getting a degree, or if you actually teach in any of these institutions or research in the research institution, you are considered an academician, and then you need to continue to do research to advance in that career path. So that is the type of research that we're talking about. I mean, any other type of research, research is in different categories that all other types of research are based on whatever the problem that you are addressing it again. Research is systematic and it has to do sometimes specific to different fields, okay, even outside of academia.
Then the second question says, how can I improve citation for my research work?
Okay, so this question, I think that we should pause on it because Dr. Darren is going to answer it.
All right, great. So well done. Okay, Yusuf is raising up his hand. Please, you can unmute yourself to ask a question. Yusuf, please go ahead. Okay, I have another question here before it comes up. Okay, our professor cannot answer this question because it's very much related to math. Okay, the person said, thank you so much for the presentation. Based on the types of plagiarism you mentioned earlier, okay, is it possible to do research without being involved in one of them?
Absolutely. So I think I see Yusuf's question with respect to action research or applied research. I'll come back to it.
Okay.
It's yeah, it's in the chat box. Okay. So if it's possible to actually do writing without plagiarism, it's absolutely possible for you to do it without doing any of those plagiarism. It is very much possible for you to do it.
Okay.
It is possible. So, like I said, what helps you not to plagiarize? From my own experience, what has helped me to avoid plagiarism is what I described. I make sure that I actually go through the process of reading those materials. Dr. Darren is going to talk about it a little bit as well. Read through. How do you read something? You can read through when you pick a paper, read through the abstract, read through the introduction, read the discussion and interpretation. Okay. When you read those things, it gives you an idea. There's no way you can be reading something and ideas will not start forming in your head. Those ideas are your own authentic thoughts. So even if you have to copy, I mean, I talked about being an hard copy person. This is my book. I always write things down. Okay, if you're not that person and you are more of the digitalized person, write your thoughts down. Okay, type those things. Type raw. Avoid copying and pasting because that eventually leads you to paraphrasing, which is one type of plagiarism that a lot of the times people get to find themselves involved in. So it's possible, even in science, where sometimes you have to report reagents and process. I mean, H2O is H2O, okay? In terms of biological sciences, the potassium dihydrogen phosphate is potassium dihydrogen. So there are some things that we know that, I mean, we can't change. We have to report in certain ways when we write, but still it's all about retaining your own authenticity in your writing. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. So when you say what is applied research, so what I do right now is applied research. Okay, so basically we develop products from techniques. So right now I'm using a cocktail of different techniques to develop a product. So that particular polymer that I'm talking about, I'm going to be using it to develop a plastic material. And that is what applied research is. It doesn't mean that it excludes, because I see sometimes when people talk about applied research, like as if the basic component of research is excluded from it. I still need to understand, for instance, I'm a molecular geneticist doing a biotechnology, developing a biotechnology-based product, okay? I need to understand the basic biology process of what I'm trying to do. So it doesn't take the fact of owning. So it's kind of like when you're doing applied research, you're going to own both the basic and the development of the product.
Yeah,
so
because of time, there's one more question I wanted to answer that relates to your talk, and then we move on to the next speaker. Someone asks, is there any negative effect of self-plagiarism?
Yes, there's a negative effect of self-plagiarism because you just type your sentence on Google and everybody sees that it's the same sentence coming from your paper. There's negative effect to self-plagiarism. I mean, you can say something in one way. There are a million ways to say the same thing. So even if you wanted to report or quote a previous research that you have done and build up on it, you don't have to copy that thing word for word. Okay, you can rephrase it. It's different from paraphrasing. You can rephrase it, you can rewrite it and say not just that you take the beginning part and switch it to the ending part. I mean, we can see all these things in writings, okay? So there's ways you can rewrite it, to put in your original thoughts. Something that you thought about today, the way you're going to think about it in the next 5-10 years is different. The way you're going to think about it in the next 2 weeks is different. So again, it's all about maintaining that authenticity, okay, in doing your writing.
All right, thank you very much. So let's move on to the next. If you're able to clap, please clap with your, but let's move on immediately to the next speaker. So I invite Dr. Derinu for the next part of the talk.
Sorry, sir. A question on plagiarism.
Okay. Did I miss it?
I don't know. Yes, by parallel. Maybe I can just quickly say it.
Okay, what is the question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, the question is on this. There are some standard equations, like in mathematics, continuity equation or whatever. But anytime you use such an equation and it is checked by plagiarism checker, it will still be underlined as being plagiarized. So some people will now start changing the alphabets, something like that. If you now have the U, the T, instead of now using U, they will now start using K, the T, and all those things. So I don't know what advice we can give to such an equation. There are some standard equations normally that everybody in mathematics will use, at least in a particular field.
So that's exactly what I was talking about with respect to writing chemical equations, because that affects us. Okay, so now there's some certain things, like you said, standard. Okay, and when you use plagiarism checkers, like some of the examples that Dr. Derinu will talk about when he talks to us, there's a certain percentage. So it accounts for it already. I think most institutions will say your plagiarism should not be more than 10%, and the areas in which they'll be looking out for it for acceptable plagiarism would be in terms of those equations. They'll say, okay, this is a standard equation. Okay, so you are writing it exactly the way it is, but not like in trying to explain your results. So if, for instance, it's just a little bit of flickers here and there in your methodology, maybe in your discussion, okay, all those things, maybe you in your introduction, at the end of the day, those things don't even account for more than maybe 5% of the plagiarism. Is a lot of the times the one that blinks out is when the statement, the structure of sentences, the way you just copy, boom, and then you carry somebody's statement. Those are the ones that are very, very huge. That is important for us. I mean, standard equations, they are fine.
All right, thank you. So we need to really move on now. If you have any question on plagiarism, you can add it, and then at the end of the second talk, we can, then we can just move on to questions straight away.
1 second, have I exited full screen?
I sound like that.
Yes, you have.
I've exited. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes. So please, Dr. Renu, please go ahead, please.
Okay. All right, sir.
Okay, yeah. So good evening from here. Maybe to my co-presenter, to everyone on this particular platform at the moment. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Oderinu Harry. I'm a numerical analyst, majorly, in an aspect of applied mathematics at Ladoke Akintola University of Technology. And I'm very happy with varieties of people that have actually joined this meeting. I want to clearly state here that in case you don't know, some of our lecturers are also on. In fact, the person that asked the last question is one of our lecturers. So let me quickly go on to what we have here. So it's writing academic report. Dr. Fadikwe has actually did a lot, which the introduction and introducing us to what an academic writing or academic report is, majorly. So now, okay. This thing is freezing. That's why I'm trying to go back again. Okay. Okay, so now we talk about the conceptualization of a research topic, because for every research, there must be a topic about it. And in choosing a research topic, one thing that a researcher or a young researcher needs to be careful about is the integrity of the research, the academic integrity. The first presenter has actually talked so much about academic integrity, so I wouldn't want to go into that. Now, in developing a research topic, there are certain things that one really need to consider in developing a research topic. And one of the things in which one really need to consider is this something that you actually have a passion for? Is this something that is in line with your career prospect? Or is this something or an area in which the skills you are actually acquiring can be transferred to what your career is going to be before actually going into choosing a research topic? And a research topic is not something one will wake up one day and just go and pick up. No. In choosing a research topic, one has to start with reviewing of literature. Perhaps you have conceived an idea of an area in which you want to do your research. It will not start with choosing a title or a topic. You just have to continue doing some literature review. It is out of this literature review that one will now be able to conceive an idea of what the research topic is going to be. Of course, as the research unfolds, one will still have to adjust and update the research topic as it will go. And in choosing research topic, one still really need to be sure of the data requirements for the research. Because if one is trying to do a particular research and the data that is required for actualizing that research is far from reach, from the researcher's reach, then I don't think such researcher will want to go into that area. Another major thing is the ethical requirements required, because all these things have to be taken in choosing a research topic. When we say ethical requirement, I think this has to do with those that deals with clinical and perhaps non-clinical human subjects. Well, when I say non-clinical human subject, maybe those that uses, what is it called, questionnaire and all the likes. If there are ethical requirements required for all these have to be gotten before actually choosing a research topic, because one cannot just choose a research topic and then later realize that you cannot get the data that is required to achieve that result, or the ethical requirement is difficult to get. So these are what we mean by conceptualization of research topic. And as we've said, this thing has to start with thorough literature review, as we've said. In talking about literature review, if you choose an article, for example, the way to actually do thorough literature review, you cannot read every literature comprehensively. So what we do is that you have to study the abstract. Every article, thesis, dissertation has an abstract. An abstract is just the summary of the entire work. So you have to study that. You don't read the abstract, but you study the abstract of the article in which you are reading. By studying the abstract, if you are able to get the idea behind the project or the thesis or the research, then one can then move on by saying, that the research topic one is trying to choose is in tandem with what one is doing. In such case, such particular article too might have some other references, which one can actually find out in the introductory part. By the time you are looking at the introduction, if it is something that is in line with what you are doing, then one can still continue going by reading and then going through the whole article. Otherwise, it is better to leave the article and choose another article for thorough literature review. Now, the structure of a dissertation, thesis, or a research paper, there is a slight difference in the structure. Generally, as the structure is what you have on the right-hand side of your screen. It starts with the abstract, and I've said the abstract is just the summary of the entire research. And there are some information that are basic, which are supposed to be in the abstract. Though The format of abstract differ from one institution to the other. It differs from one journal outlet to the other. But there are some basic information that should be captured in the abstract. This basic information are brief introduction. When I say brief introduction, for example, if I want to do a research on effect of mental health on employees' productivity, for example, perhaps I may want to give a brief introduction with the definition of mental health. Then another thing which should be captured in the abstract is the problem statements and the aim. Those major information are key and has to be captured in the abstract. In some cases, the methodology have to be captured. So also it's some results. All these are something that has to be brief because they are the summary of the entire work. So everything cannot be captured, but there are some key things, as we've mentioned, which should be captured in the abstract. Now to the introduction, which is the next session of a dissertation or a thesis. In the introductory part of a write-up, you start with background to the study because for any thesis, there are some keywords, there are some backgrounds that are associated with it. And in the background to the study, again, supposing I'm doing a research on what I said earlier, which is effect of mental health on employees' productivity. That implies that I have to do some background information on effect of mental health on employee productivity. Meaning that after defining what a mental health is, I have to say, okay, what are different types of mental health? For example, I give example, maybe anxiety disorders, bipolar disorder, depression, and some other maybe feed and eating disorders, several other things that are actually referred to as mental health have to be captured and explained in detail. Then what is employee productivity? So every keyword associated with the work have to be captured in the background to the study. After the background to the study, still under introduction, is the problem statement. The problem statement, the only way to get this problem statement is a thorough literature review, as we've said. By the time one is doing literature review, you are reading one article to the other and to the other. Now, there will be a time in which one has to narrow the literature, the review of literature to certain area, such that that is going to be the trend of the research in which one has at hand. Then the hypothesis, of course, Dr. Fadiga's book has talked about that. Then the aim and objectives. The aim is actually what the target of the research is all about. Then the objectives are the steps to be taken in achieving that aim. Again, still on effect of mental health on employee productivity. Maybe the step I need to take in achieving this aim, first of all, is to get a data from some organization. Then the next thing is to actually choose some tools in analyzing this data. So these are going to form the objective in actualizing the goal that is being set. Because if we have an aim, there will be steps that will be undertaken in achieving this aim. And this literature review, as we've said, is actually divided into two. The first area of a literature review is what is known as a theoretical framework. There are some theories that are associated with every research. What I mean by theory is some information that could be gotten from textbooks that are basic, which are, for example, what is mental health? For example, what is employee productivity? And so on. These are theory. Then the other part of the literature review is researchers' contribution. There might have been some other researchers who have done something very close to the research at hand. And while one is doing this, one has to report. And as one is reporting, one will try to give some information that stands to be a research gap, which one is trying to address in this case. So when one is doing a literature review, one has to be very careful and make sure that the article that is under review or the thesis that is under review is a bit related or highly related to the research at hand. Then, of course, we have the methods, the findings, the discussion, the conclusion, the bibliography, which we will talk much more about in the next slide. But when you are doing literature review, you need to be careful. One needs to be careful of predatory journals because you cannot write a good book without reading good books. Before you can turn out a very good article, you must have read good books. So the only way to do this is to read articles that are indexed. When I say indexed articles which are indexed in some databases, there are some databases peculiar to each field. For example, there are some databases peculiar to mathematics, there are some peculiar to biology and so on. But there are some that are general to all. At least some articles that are, which are published in journals that are indexed in Google Scholar, WOS, which is Web of Science, Scopus, and some other databases. I'll still talk about this much more when we get to publishing research findings. So this forms the introductory part of the research. So now the next thing is, of course, we spoke about the literature review. Yes. Why do we even need to do literature review? While you are doing literature review, there are some other things that you really need to take cognizance of. Because by the time you are reviewing literature that are very close to the work you are doing, you will find yourself acquainted with the methods that will be used in your homework too, because there are standard methods that are peculiar to each research findings. Data analysis, what kind of data analysis is being used? Now, in some, I've seen some theses in which at the end of the thesis, the researcher will just put future studies there. The future studies could even be what you are going to research on. By the time you read the future studies, it could be what is your interest, because some researchers will actually identify the gap of their own research, even at the end of the research, and which they will call as future studies. Dr. Fadipe spoke about plagiarizing and all the likes. Yes. For any information that is gotten somewhere, you really need to cite where the information is gotten from. Yes, you don't want to copy somebody's work. Nonetheless, there are some information that cannot be changed. For example, I think I think somebody spoke about the continuity equation. Continuity equation is going to be continuity equation. It's not going to change. And I want to say that students in general need to be careful. Postgraduate students need to be careful about this aspect very, very well, because that is where some journal outlets will never tell you that you should submit an article of 0% plagiarism. No, they will tell you that the threshold of their plagiarism is 15%, for example. They know that there are some things that you still have to present the way they have. So in doing this, even as a researcher, after doing some write-up, you can actually use some of this software. They have subscriptions, some of them have free, which you can actually use them to check whatever you have done to see whether you are in line. And some of them are Turnitin. That one is very, very popular. That is what we use relatively in this country, in Nigeria as a whole. Turnitin is very popular and it's very, very sensitive. And another one which I know that is very sensitive is Authenticate, which one can actually subscribe to actually check the level of plagiarism in which you have committed. It is impossible to have zero plagiarism. No. That is, as a matter of fact, the reason why we have to put references at the end of every write-up. So these are some of the things that has to be taken cognizance of. And in criticizing our literature, because while you are reviewing literature, you are taking them one after the other. You cannot criticize all literature, but there are some literature that are directly related to your research, which you are improving on. Those are the ones that an average researcher has to criticize in this case. And in doing literature review, there are different citation procedures. The parenthetical citation, the numerical citation, then the note citation. The first two are very, very popular, the parenthetical and the numerical citation. I will start with the numerical citation because many journal outlets make use of this numerical citation. The numerical citation is the one in which, as you are giving the information, you put numbers in parentheses. And as you are putting numbers in parentheses, the numbers, so if you are putting number 1 and you put them in brackets, then the first reference that you are going to list at the end of the whole research will be that number 1. The next one that will be cited will be number 2. And it goes that way. By the time you are listing, that is going to form the number 2. In that case, all of them are going to be in parentheses. I mean, in parentheses, yes. Now, for the parenthetical citations, this is also very popular in Nigeria. There are several of them. There are HAHA, which is American Anthropological Association citation. APA, which many people call APA. This is American Psychological Association citation. There is APSA, which is American Political Science Association. Several of them. There are several, Harvard citation and all the likes. But whichever one you are making use of, you just need to know the rule that is guiding them. I give an example of some of them here. What I have on the left-hand side here is the hey citation, for example, the listing, the very first one. Then the in-text citation, what I mean by the in-text citation is why the write-up is going, and one is citing the reference. The way it's being cited is what I refer to as in-text citation. So for it is cited as projected. For APA, this is what we have. And when one is doing literature review, it's just like having a meal. You don't want to be having the same kind of meal every time. Yes, you want to have varieties of meal. So there are different types. I give an example. Now, I said the investigation of effect of mental health was conducted in South Africa by Clark 2022, where so was obtained, and so on. Another way of saying that is that Clark 2022 conducted the research that revealed that so. Another way of still saying that is that it's just saying investigation of effect of mental health was conducted, in which the result revealed that so, and at the end of the day, one will put the reference. So one will mix the referencing citation in the in-text. One will not, because what I've observed is that students in general always make use of one particular citation format, which is not too good enough. So it is always better to mix everything. And something I forgot earlier while I was talking about plagiarism the other time, in an attempt to run away from plagiarism, so I've seen candidates in an attempt to do paraphrasing. What they do is there are some keywords associated with a particular field. They still change it because the software will change it for them. Even if you have used it, you still need to check to make sure that, for example, in mathematics, for example, you will have boundary value problems. For those that are mathematicians, they will understand what I'm talking about. So if you put boundary value problems to all these softwares to do some paraphrasing for you, they will change boundary value problems to boundary value issues, which has actually changed the concept of the work. So even if you are using a software to do some paraphrasing, you still need to read through to be sure that you are not missing some registers that are associated with your field. So this is just a way of doing this. And for the methodology, since we have different fields, there are different procedures of doing methodology. It could be quantitative, it could be qualitative, it could be mixed, and so on. And it could be peculiar to each study. There are different, if we are talking about quantitative, the quantitative procedure is the one that involves numbers. For example, as we were talking about the mental health the other time, maybe the data we are going to get will be analyzed using maybe regression analysis, and in which some things will be calculated, perhaps adjusted out squared and so on. That means we are dealing with numbers. So we are going quantitative in that way. And barely every methodology in mathematics are quantitative, and some are qualitative. This is very common in social sciences, in particular, and humanities, in which they are not going to make use of number. For example, in qualitative, they can just say, perhaps they will gather articles or researches in a particular area and try to bring deductions from them to achieve a particular, and draw a conclusion from there. So they are not going to do a particular, they are not going to do any calculation at all. They will take different researches in that same field, try to come up with their conclusions, then use their conclusion to buttress their points in this case. So, and some make use of mixed method. So when we talk about methodology, methodology is also associated with thorough literature review. In essence, what one is saying here is that literature review is something that you have to start with in any research. It's something that you have to continue with in any research. It's something that you still do up until the end of the research. Because it is from this literature review that you know appropriate method that you're supposed to use for whatever you are doing. Otherwise, you will be going astray. Now, for results, our findings have to be presented, because at the end of every research, we want to see what our result is. And results generally are always presented in terms of tables, well-structured tables, graphs, and charts. I'll give an example of a table here. A table must be well-defined. It must have a title or a caption. It has to be well-defined. The columns must be well-defined. Every information has to be provided so that at a glance, anyone that is looking at the table will understand the information that is being provided on the table. So these are things that one needs to check, and each table needs to be given a nomenclature. If they are graph through, They have to be given nomenclature, charts have to be given names, and so on. And if there are some special softwares that has been made use of, one really need to mention it in the results that so software were used to achieve this following result. One of them is MATLAB, SPSS, maybe R if it is mathematical, and so on. Now, in the discussion of results, it is expected that each... Hello? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Please go
It
ahead.
is expected. Okay, it is expected that each objective will give a particular result. So in discussing results, one has to discuss with respect to each objective. Now, if one is talking about two objectives can give a particular result, and one objective can give two different results. I mean, two results rather. And why one is doing this? There is difference between presentation of results and discussion of results. If we are saying that table 2 present the results of the data collected from so, I'm putting full stop there. That is presentation. What is the implication of what has been presented? That is when you are discussing. And why discussing? It is standard to compare your findings with what is in the literature to make it standard. If it is in agreement with literature, then you have to give reason why they are in agreement. If it's in disagreement, then you have to give reason. And if your work is novel, then you really have to do a lot of work in explaining, because if you are coming with something new, then you must be ready for answers. We know in mathematics, if you are saying something contrary to what has been said in the past, then you must be ready to defend yourself to the brim. So these are things in which you want to take caution of in discussion of results. Then the conclusion, recommendation, and reference. Well, since you have your result, the major inferences from your results are your conclusion. Major inferences. What are the key things that you have gotten from your results? Then when you are recommending, you can give recommendation based on your research finding. Maybe you are using a particular method different from a method that has been used in the past. Then you can recommend your own method. Recommendation can be in terms of feature studies, as I've said, because you don't want to do a research that will just box to one corner. No, you want a research in which somebody will be able to take and follow up with. So yes, we can have recommendation in terms of feature study. Then you have your references, which must follow a specific pattern, whether HAPA, whether whether numeric. It depends. And you need to understand the tradition of the university in which you are doing your program. Now, publishing research findings. It is always necessary in academics to protect your academic finding. So this is why it is essential that one needs to publish your work. And when you are publishing, you need to publish in an appropriate journal. When I say appropriate journal, I mean that a journal that is indexed. For example, if you want to check any journal, whether it is indexed or not, when you get to their website, you are likely going to see a place written indexing and abstracting. When you click on indexing and abstracting, you see all the databases where that journal is indexed. If you see any journal without indexing and abstracting, then they are trying to hide something. There is no way a journal will be indexed and they will not put it in their site. Another major thing that you need to check here in sending your article to an appropriate journal is that you want to be sure that the work you want to submit is in line with the scope of the journal. If you are submitting something that is outside their scope, yes, I mean, applied mathematics, yes, I'm sending a journal into, I'm sending my article into a journal that accepts applied mathematics, but I need to check the scope. The moment they realize that the work you're sending in is outside their scope, they return. In fact, it will not get to a peer review stage. The managing editor will quickly read through and return it to you. And what they do is this. The moment you submit an article, a managing editor reads the abstract, try to go to the conclusion and read, and see if it is in line. Then that is when he will pass it over to reviewers to do a thorough review. But the moment it failed that test, at that moment, they return it to you. Under 1 week, you get your article back. Though, if you get your article back, don't despair. You just have to move on. And when you are publishing your article, you need to consider publishing in open access journals. However, what is open access journal? Open access journal are journals in which every article that are present there could easily be accessed by anyone. I mean, anyone can download it without making any payment. But the question is, open access journal come with some financial responsibilities. If you try to check the article publication charges, which we call APC, what you can see some that are about $2,000. You can see some that are about $1,500 and so on. So while you are publishing, and you want to consider open access journal, you need to know that it comes with responsibility. But most of these journals, despite the fact that they have article publication charges, they still offer subscription publication. By subscription publication, when your article is put on their website, what they are going to do is that they will display the abstract. There may be some part of the introduction and the references. So anyone that needs the entirety of the article, we need to make some payment before he can go ahead. But it has been observed that subscription article will not have good citation like open access article, because open access article will be downloaded by many people. And it is what you have read that you'll be able to cite. But every scientist who wants his work to be cited, generally, to improve your citation index, I mean, H index and so on. So these are some of the things. And some of these indexed databases is what I just put here. The Scopus. Scopus is a very good indexing. So when you see any journal that is indexed in Scopus, you should know that it's a very good journal. SCI, that is Science Citation Index. When you see any journal that is indexed in SCI, you know it's a very good journal. SCIE, that is Science Citation Index Expanded. Any journal that is indexed here. And in fact, if you see any journal that is in SCI or SCIE, they will be in Scopus, but not the other way around. Any journal, I repeat myself, any journal that is indexed in SCI and SCIE will be in Scopus. But not all journals that are indexed in Scopus that will be in SCI, showing that SCI and SCIE has higher hierarchy than Scopus. But if you can publish in Scopus as a postgraduate student, trust me, you are very good. All this still belongs to a group we call Clarivate Analytics. Yes, these are top class. If you cannot publish in all this, you can then go ahead. At least the minimum standard in which you can publish your journal is a journal that is indexed in Google Scholar. Or I said any relevant journals peculiar to each field. For example, in the field of mathematics, we have Mathematical Review as a database owned by American Mathematical Society. So we are sure of thorough review of that. We have Zentrablatt Math, owned by German Mathematical Society, and so on and so forth. So there are peculiarities to different fields too, so which one can check. And one thing we need to take cognizance of here is that some journals tell lies about where they are indexed, but there is a way you can find out. And I give you an example. This is the way they do it. When you check their indexing and abstracting, since they know every one of you are familiar with Scopus, they will put Scopus there, but the Scopus they will put there, they can put double O. You need to be careful in checking what they are checking. Then there are some journals, perhaps they've been in Scopus up until 2017. They will say that in their indexing and abstracting, they will write Scopus, but they will not write it somewhere where you cannot easily see that they were in Scopus till that particular year. So if you are not careful, you quickly rush and submit your article there, not knowing that they have actually truncated their subscription with Scopus. So, but in order to check whether any journal is in all these databases, there is a way to check. There's what we call SIMAGO. SIMAGO is a metric that is being used to check the performance of all these journals. Any journal that you see in SIMAGO means that it's in Scopus, it's in SCI, SCIE, and so on. Now, how do you do that? For example, let's say I have a journal named International Journal of Biological Sciences. Just put SIMAGO in its front, then enter. It's going to give you some information about the journal. And it will tell you whether the journal is a Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4. Any journal in Scopus will either be Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4. Any journal in SCI will either be Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. What do you mean by Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4? These are quartiles. So when we say Q1, it means the best 25% journals. When we say Q2, that is the next to hit, and so on like that. So when you type, this Imago will tell you that these are their performance metrics, and how they are being rated is as a result of their H index, how they are being cited. I said be careful of predatory journals. Those journals that tell lies, that are not actually in those databases, are what I refer to as predatory journals. You see, generally when we are doing research and we need to push out our research output, we need to be cautious of what we do. And at the same time, we really need to check, collaborate, of course, for the peaceful existentiality of our work, because that is purpose, for peaceful of our work. That's what we do, why we do research. We can collaborate. We should be able to collaborate with some other fields. A mathematician should be able to collaborate with a statistician should be able to collaborate with a biologist. A biologist should be able to collaborate with other sciences. But I'm not surprised. The only reason why I know that other sciences quarrel a little bit with mathematicians in general, because it happens everywhere. There was a day I know this happened, but there was a day I was reading through a pamphlet of AMS, American Mathematical Society, and just to show that it happens there too, they said that the only reason why other sciences conflict with mathematics is because while other sciences are focusing on solving problems that are already existing, mathematicians create problems for themselves and solve it. Perhaps they anticipate problems before they happen. This is where the conflicting, but regardless of whatever, all we are trying to do is to save the world. So if you send an article out and it's being returned, do not despair. Don't lose hope. Just still believe. Try to, in fact, focus on the reviewer's comments. That makes you stronger. When you focus on the reviewer's comments, you'll be able to do more work on the reviewer's comment, and then that will move you in. And for whatever you need to do, we say we need to hit research. I'm just trying to say this: drink with research, sleep with research, and wake up with research. And I'll just submit by telling you this story. There was a time when I was doing my master's program, and a professor was teaching us fluid dynamics. At the end of the class, he gave us a work to do. For anyone that is familiar with fluid dynamics, problems in fluid dynamics has always been prove that this is that. He gave us that proof. We tried to find, we did our calculation, we couldn't get what he asked us to prove. I thought I was the only person. I checked others. Everyone was unable to get, our answers did not go in line with what the professor asked us to prove. Anyway, the professor is late now. So when he checked our work and he realized that we didn't get it, he now shared his own story with us. He now told us that while he was doing his PhD in the University of Cornell, US, he had this Chinese American professor called Professor Zeng. That Professor Zeng was taking them fluid dynamics as well. One day, Professor Zeng, after finishing the class, he gave them 3 problems in fluid dynamics to prove that A equals to B and so on. He said when he got home, he tried his, he couldn't get the answer. For the 3, he retried again. He couldn't get it. Then he concluded by saying that no, Professor Zeng must be wrong. So he went to the library to check some materials to discredit Professor Zeng. Unfortunately for him, every fluid dynamics textbook he laid his hand on make reference to Professor Zeng's work. So he took the first one as he was reading, they referenced Professor Zeng. He took the second one as he was reading, that one too referenced Professor Zeng. At the end of the day, he now felt maybe Professor Zeng was right. Then he said he was still thinking about the problem while he fell asleep. As he slept off, he said he now had a dream that he saw Professor Zeng in his dream, trying to tell him that this is where you make mistake in the first one, this is where you make mistake in the second one, this is where you make mistake in the third one. At the end of the day, he said when he woke up, he tried those problems again by adjusting those mistakes, and he got those problems. And he told us just that. He didn't solve the problem for us. Don't forget, he gave us the problem that led us to this. So he left us and we went home. When we went home, we did several research, and we were able to see that there was something he didn't teach us, which we actually needed to get that answer. And we did it again, we got it. What I actually want to bring out here is that research is something that one has to be doing on a regular basis. You need to continue thinking about, if you fail on a particular stuff, just continue to work around it. There will be a literature that will give you an insight over whatever you are doing. So when we say you should eat with research, this is what we mean. Drink with research, sleep with research, then wake up with research. But with all this, we have not said that if you are doing a research, you should not involve yourself in a recreation or non-recreation activities. What we have just said is that to be successful, to be a successful researcher, you need commitment. And these are where I'm going to halt it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Wow, that's a great ending. I will have so many questions already. And I know that everyone here have questions, or some people have questions as well. So please, if you have questions, just put it on the chat, and then I will read it to our facilitators afterwards. So another question that came up is to Dr. is Dr. Fadipe. Can you enlighten us on primary and secondary citations? Primary and secondary citations.
Can I go ahead with it?
Okay, please go ahead. It looks like maybe she's busy.
What's this? The intention of the person that has this question is this. For example, if you are reading an article, for example, and while reading the article, you saw the article you are reading, you should be able to cite it in the work you are going to do. When you are reporting yours, you are going to cite it. That article you are reading. When you are doing that, you are getting it from the actual source. That is primary citation. But let's take, for example, while you're reading that article, you saw another citation inside that article, which interests you, perhaps. And you try to find information about it, but you couldn't. But you were able to get information in the article you are reviewing or reading. It becomes secondary in that case. So that is the difference between primary and secondary citation, as it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So, and then sometimes if you get a secondary citation source, you can as well, perhaps maybe when you read it from the original article, you are interested in getting more information, and from that person that cited it, you could also look for that particular article online, and then it also now eventually becomes a primary, citation for you at the end of the day. So again, just like Dr. Oderino already explained.
Thank you. Also, the second question is, for this one will be another topic, another seminar on its own. So I don't know if you can answer this question now, but maybe just 1, 2, 3 sentences. If I want to apply for grant funding for my research work, how can I write a grant proposal? And what is the structure of a research grant proposal? I know this is not something we can talk in 1 minute, but maybe you can. Okay.
Yeah, I actually had the slide to just go over the structure of a grant proposal, but then I just removed it at the end of the day. So a grant proposal typically would have some of the basic portion that Dr. Oderino talked about. So you're going to definitely have your title. You would have conceived the title. So conceptualization of the title based on what, we just said now is an important part. And from there, to get your title, you would have done a good background, okay? And from that background of your research in that grant proposal, sometimes they'll call it background, sometimes they will call it introduction. You're expected to provide the information about that basic information about that area of research that you're interested in, and then highlight the gaps at the end of the day. Okay, so towards the end of that background or introduction, you have to show the gaps that you are in, at the end of the day, come down to your aim and objectives. Your grant proposal will definitely have your aim. Your objective is breaking down the steps of how you're going to achieve the aim. Then you should have your proposed methodology. It's called proposed methodology at this point. Depending on the granting organization, they might want details. They might want it to be very short. So if usually they don't ask you, they don't give you, they don't say, okay, make it large or small. Just make sure that a big chunk of that thing called proposal actually talks about your methodology, because based on the fact that you've done a good background, and then your proposed methodology, your outcomes, expected outcomes should be there. The timeline for the project, for the proposal that you're writing, it has to be there for each of the methods that you're saying. Even you even have to sometimes add, literature review being an ongoing process, publishing, all of that. The full timeline of the research has to be there. And of course, sometimes they ask for budgets. Budgets might be in line with, the requirements of the granting organization. And then you also want to put your references there as well. Those are the things I think basically you should have in the grant proposal.
Yeah, I mean, since someone have asked it, maybe in the future, we might look forward to having a talk on this separately, because I know there's also more to grant proposal writing. So please stay tuned. Probably in the future, we'll be able to go deeper into that question, or maybe discussing this much better. So what is the difference between literature review and theoretical framework? Maybe Dr. Eleni can answer this.
Okay, yes. While I was saying, I said, okay, let me say theoretical framework is a subset. It's a subclass of literature review. So literature review is the big umbrella. But inside this literature review, it's partitioned into several things. So when you say theoretical framework, the theory associated with the work. Now, I give an example the other time. I was talking about mental health, for example. I said there are different types of mental health. Anxiety disorder, I may want to talk extensively about it because I can find this in the textbook. So that is theoretical framework. But literature review encompasses this theoretical framework and some researchers who have contributed in this area of research. By saying that, Oderinu, maybe 2022, established that so. So that is just the difference.
All right, thank you, sir. The last question before I go to some other housekeeping rule is, how do you identify knowledge gaps in literature? So, and I know this is very important. So I would want both of you to answer this, because I know it might be different in different areas. And so, yeah, how do you identify knowledge gap? When you do literature review, how do you identify knowledge gap? Dr. Fadibe can answer first. Okay.
Okay, so, well, because my area is biological sciences, so there are different ways in which I approach the identification of knowledge gaps in literature. So and also now depends on the type of research that you're wanting to do. So I'm just going to give an example of how I identified the knowledge gap in the current project that I'm doing, that I talked about earlier. So post my PhD, and I started working in FIRO, and then the DG said, Dr. I need, because of the way we do research in FIRO, is to develop, it's more geared towards product development at the end of the day. So we don't just stop at the basics of the research. We apply it and we get to the stage of product development. So, but I didn't have anything in mind specifically. So I picked up a very, very good biotechnology textbook. Okay. And then I started reading, because I knew that I had the mandate of the institute and then the kind of research that we do in the institute. So I started reading until I got to the point where I had, of course, some areas in which I was interested in. And this is telling you that, like, there was nothing in my head, basically. Blank. And I wanted to come up with research projects. So I started reading until I got to the point where, I care about environmental related stuff. And I found the information about this biodegradable polymer. And that was where, because of a need that I knew with respect to plastic issues, plastic pollution, I know that that's a problem that I'm interested in. I picked up on it and I went into literature. Then from that textbook, I started researching about the process, the polymer, knowing everything about it. And then got to the point where, oh, so these are the issues. It's already well established that this polymer can be produced by bacteria. I had all the history, the types of polymer and everything. And I went into, okay, the area of gap is sustainability in production. So if you're doing any type of research here, you have to look at, okay, what type of local sustainable materials am I going to use to produce? Okay, and there were also gaps in the area of optimization of the production process when I started reading. And then there were also areas in the area of optimizing the production itself in the bacteria. And so all the research I've been doing in the past 10 years has been geared towards addressing all of those gaps that I identified 10 years ago. And it's still an ongoing process. So I just gave you that idea from the scratch to the ongoing process of how you can find gaps. That's the way it works for me.
Thank you. Dr. Derenu?
Okay, so I'm just going to say that in identifying knowledge gap, majorly, it's not something one will be able to do in isolation, really. That is why an average postgraduate student will have a supervisor. So you have to work in tandem with your supervisor, or if not your supervisor directly, I think maybe a senior research person who can actually tell you what to look for. So yes, it starts with literature review, as we said. You've conceived an idea of an area in which you want to do your research. I was talking about, let me just give a very simple example. I was talking about effect of mental health on employees' productivity the other time. Maybe while I was surfing through the internet, I saw that such research has been done somewhere, maybe in Australia, And what was considered there looks like the same thing, but perhaps what was considered is multinational companies, the employees of multinational companies. I am in Nigeria, for example. While reading that, I realized that, oh, this is very close to what I'm doing. Why not considering, number one, in Nigeria, which have a different cultural balance setup. Okay, after that, instead of considering multinational company, the thinking, the emotional behavior of multinational employees is quite different from the SMEs. So why not consider the employees of small and medium scale enterprise, stuff like that. So when one is reading through the literature, ideas will be coming. You must have an idea of the area. For example, if I'm bringing it down to applied mathematics, for example, while reading the literature, for example, maybe I'm reading literature about a particular method. And in that particular method, while using that method, maybe a particular concept has been used to achieve a particular result. I feel, okay, this particular concept, is there any other concept that is better than this that could be used? For example, I'm just trying to be careful of using so many mathematical terms. So that's why but nonetheless, let me still say it anyway. Maybe I'm trying to use something which I know its convergence rate is of order 2. Maybe that was what I read in the literature. And I know these two, there are some other ones which has convergence rate of order 4. That means the one I'm going to do will be faster than the one that has been done. This is where I'm now going to inculcate my own idea and say, okay, what this person has done, if I inculcate my own idea into it, will it work? Will it be better? What will be the likely result? So these are tools. And when you're identifying gap, it may not be one. It may be one, but it may not be. It may be more than one, and so on and so forth. But when you do thorough review of literature, you will realize that a gap, in fact, you might be lucky that a gap that is being created in one paper or article is being answered in another article. So that's where you actually learn about, oh, this is the problem that is being solved here, were created here. Okay, you continue reading. So then another thing I advise students in general is to follow lineage of articles. You are reading an article. The article cited some other articles. Go back to those articles. When you go back to that article, you will see where the gap is filling is. Then the other one, that means the second one now, by the time you are reading that too, comprehensively, it will also cite some article. Follow that lineage too. You will now see the progression of research in that, and you'll be able to see, okay, This is what they are doing. What can I also do to make this thing better or to make it different, and so on and so forth? So these are ways of thorough literature review majorly. This is what it entails. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. One more question. Okay, I think I have two more questions. One is, if I'm working in an area that has not been researched or not been researched by so many people, how do I do a robust referencing? First of all, I don't think any area exists that no one is researching. But anyway, please, maybe we just have one answer from Dr. Fadipe, please.
Okay. You talked about research in an area that nobody has researched. So again, your response was that the first time where I'm going to tailor my response towards, in the sense that there's hardly anything that
exactly
has not been researched. It could just be maybe you're trying to pick up this thing and applying it in your own area. There's always going to be some background about this thing. You will be able to get a background that will answer your question. Remember, the scientific process starts with a question. And if you start to broadly look at, in those days, early days, like really, people used to go to libraries and literally sit down there for hours and keep pondering. And now, because we're talking about this in the context of academic research, you have a whole world of resources right now. So it might just be maybe something that is interdisciplinary. And that is why also research is now encouraged to be interdisciplinary. So because you could just find out that what you're thinking about to apply in your area was actually done somewhere in another field. So if your researching is something that is relatively novel in your field, that means you're going to be doing an elaborate background. You have to go beyond your field, keep an open mind to see what exactly has been done. It might just be a thought process of somebody that will just ignite the whole process for you, and then you now be able to organize your thoughts and know where to start searching for information at the end of the day. That's what I would say about it.
Yeah, thank you. So your review or referencing does not have to be specific to your field. So if you're bringing an idea from a different field into your new field, then your literature, you should reference that where your idea is coming from. But mostly everything has been researched. We have one more question because of time. What's the difference between academic reports and evaluation reports? I'm not sure I really understand this question.
Okay, should I go with that?
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Okay, so academic reports is different from evaluation reports. For an academic report, that is what Dr. Fadipe emphasized, just to create new knowledge area, new knowledge, add to knowledge that is academic report. But the new knowledge you are doing, you need to put it into writing so that other people will be able to read. That is academic. But for evaluation report is just to check the effectiveness or the performance of a particular tool. So if you are giving reports about evaluation, so what you are doing is the effectiveness about a particular tool. So if with what we are talking about this academic report now, if what we have developed is, let's say, a software, and I've done the whole write-up. The whole write-up is the academic report. But I can do the evaluation report by saying that maybe there is a metric that is being used to do the evaluation for anything that is being done in that way. The evaluation report actually has to do with the product. So there is always a standard way of doing this. So the evaluation report will be such that it has to go through some evaluation processes to know the effectiveness, and one will now report it. And going back to, let me quickly switch to the last question that Dr. Fadipe just answered. For the fact that someone is even thinking in a line of research, meaning that you got the idea somewhere, it may not be article. One thing I notice is that while many researchers concentrate a lot on articles, there are several things that are hidden in our textbooks, honestly. I've seen some old textbooks that I still read today, which I can still bring up some new things from there. Perhaps while the textbook is being written, there are no softwares to get the result to a certain level. But now that there are varieties of software which I can use to get those results. So if you read textbooks very well, you will still be able to, instead of referencing or listening or academic, articles, your own might then be textbooks. But for the fact that you are even thinking about it, where did you hear it from? You must have read it somewhere. That is just the idea.
All right, thank you very much. So I have some announcement, or is there any other question? I think maybe in 2 minutes. Any other question? I think Yusuf Isaac, please go ahead. Thank you. I see your hand raised up. Yeah, you can unmute yourself. Okay. Or maybe you can, if you cannot, you can write, you can send your questions in and I can add it as I give some announcements. So one is that I think I've been posting some link on the group chat, on the chat. The recording of, the recording of this seminar would be uploaded on our YouTube channel. And I will be adding the link to the YouTube channel right now on the chat. So please, you can take a look at it. We also have on YouTube, you will find previous trainings that we've done on data science, on web designing, and also this will be added as well. Then the second thing I want to talk about is to prepare us. If you are interested, we are also planning for our next mentorship class, which will be on database or on SQL. Also this year, we're also planning some training in the area of data analysis and data science as well. So please, stay tuned and watch out for the announcements for this training. I think, okay, someone wants to talk. Adeleke Suliat, please go ahead. Your question. Okay. You can unmute yourself. All right, I think I'll just continue. Then some people asked me about the presentations that our facilitator have made. We will post the presentation on the WhatsApp group. So if you have not joined the WhatsApp group, please, I will also put a link for you to, if you want to join as well on the group chat. So please, we will post the presentation afterwards on the group chat, on our WhatsApp group. Then also, if you want, so like I said before at the beginning, that we have a mentorship program. So we have people join us as mentors. We have minimum requirements for you to join as mentors, of course. And as well, if you want to join as a mentee, that is, you want other people to mentor you, to guide you. We have a lot of data scientists. We have a lot of researchers. We have, as you can see, we have a lot of people in finance. We have mathematicians. We have biologists as well. And so if you are interested in having someone mentor you, so please, you can register with us with this link, which I will also post on the chat. This is for you to be a mentee. So you are looking for a mentor. Now, if you're also well established, you are at the top of your career, even maybe not necessarily the top of your career, but you feel you've gained a lot of knowledge that you are willing to share with other people, and you want to join us as a mentor, please, you can also register as well, and which I will also add the link to the chats now. Okay, I think someone is asking a question. Let me see. Okay, so I've added the link also for you to join as a mentor as well. But if you're looking for a mentor, you can also join with the link I've sent. There's a question here that what will be your advice for undergraduate and master level rising mathematician about the field in general? Okay, so this is going to Dr. Derinu. So, Dr. Derinu, what is your advice for undergraduate and master level rising mathematician about the field of mathematics?
Okay, so if I'm going to answer this, I will just say that, okay, the world is moving majorly. As the world is moving, we are moving from an era to another one. So may I say, I wouldn't want to consider this in the olden days, but what I see that the world is in demand of majorly now is what you can do with whatever you are saying. For example, if you are coming up with equations, big equations, the world want to see the application of that equation. So I'm now trying to say that the idea of abstract mathematics is good, and is good and is really commendable. Nonetheless, one wants to see how the abstract, how that big equation translates to application. So in the nowadays sense, the undergrad mathematicians or the master mathematician want to work in how their area of specialization or how that mathematics is being applied into making the world a better place. That is as simple as that.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Is there any other question? Okay, there's someone that is raising and their name is someone. So please, someone, can you please go ahead?
Okay,
Someone,
maybe they are muted, right?
yeah, but they can unmute themselves.
Okay.
Hello?
Oh, okay, yeah. Hello, please go ahead.
Oh, my name is Usman. Actually, I'm Dr. Derinu's ex-student. So
Okay,
from
good.
Lautech. So I'm doing my master's currently. So I'm the one that asked the question about the advice for the undergraduates and the master's rising mathematicians. Because nowadays, I've talked to many undergraduates and even the master's level students that we are here together. Actually, I'm currently in the US. So, but I found out that a lot of people are feeling discouraged about the field because there are restrictions to what mathematicians can do, unlike before, where mathematicians are really, really recognized everywhere. Now that there is involvement of AI in doing stuff, there are levels to how they really recognize mathematicians. And we are discouraged about where is it going, because now if a mathematician is not collaborating with maybe statistics people or something like that, like doing something related to data, or we are not upgrading ourselves to a lot of software coming around now, like it's becoming irrelevant. So, and that is actually my question. I would like one of our co-speaker to really address that topic.
Okay. Dr. N, maybe you can go first, and maybe I can probably add to it too.
Okay, yeah. So I spoke about this earlier. Yeah, I understand what he's trying to say. The fact is this: if I realize that I have to do less work and achieve more in a particular area, why do I have to go and do something difficult, which I'm not even sure of so getting something probably better? So I understand the angle he is coming from. Yes, it is true. But what we still need to do is this. We cannot say that they are not being recognized like that. No, I don't think so. I don't think so to say that they are not entirely not recognized. They are still recognized. But the problem is how the mathematics is being translated into the world of industry. Because anybody that you are speaking to, we want to hear, what can you do with your big equation? Whatever big equation you are coming up with, if you cannot actually translate it to something, well, depending on the field of mathematics, for example, those that are doing pure mathematics now, they are also now realizing that this idea of theorem, proof, and all the likes doesn't work anyway. So they are now trying to bring it to application. For example, I was given a course to teach. It's not my area of specialization, actually, general topology. It's actually an area in pure mathematics, but the way it's being taught is not the way I taught it, because before I was going to take the course, I tried to download course materials, questions from universities overseas to see how they are bringing it into application format. And this is the way I taught the students. This is where we now realize that general topology is actually a doorway which so many people are making use, even in econometrics. Economic students are using it very well. So majorly, not until they realize that you can use this to do this. For example, you mentioned data science now, big data analysis. I was teaching vector and tensor analysis some time ago, and I was asking the students, what maybe they understand, is there anybody that is doing data science? Actually, I was unfortunate to get anyone that was doing it. I wanted to actually link TensorFlow to, the TensorFlow in data analysis. I wanted to link it to what Tensor is actually about, so that they will know, they will understand the background of it. So, well, the design is there, the software is there, so many AIs are there, but as a mathematician, once you are doing it, you will know. To add to it, somebody gave me a problem to solve. Somebody from engineering, a PhD student in engineering, he had this big math problem that he couldn't solve. So he gave it to me. I tried solving it too. I couldn't, to be honest with you. I couldn't. I tried it severally. I couldn't. I put it to AI database to solve the math for me. So the AI was solving it. I was trying to follow the trend at which the AI was. The first attempt the AI made, it couldn't solve it. I mean, it solved it, but it made use of some assumptions which I was not in agreement with. I retried. It solved it again. By the time I got to about 8 attempts, that was when I was satisfied with the method. But if I am not a mathematician, perhaps I would have taken one of the results. It was already presented to me. But I understand the steps he's taking. However, this result was then used by this man to achieve whatever I want to achieve in engineering. So it's a collaborative effort somehow, a chain effort somehow. So that's what I'm going to say. Let me leave it to Dr. Akinlabi.
Yeah, just to add to what you said, I don't think mathematicians are appreciated, especially in industry. And what's important for you is to think of how can I transition my knowledge to something that is applicable or that can make money for industry. Sorry, America is about, because you say you're in America, that's why I'm saying this. So I work currently in an industry where we have almost about 2 mathematicians, and what the kind of work they do, in fact, one of them do mathematical modeling, and is doing and this is a pure mathematician, but is still able to use the knowledge that he has gained to solve business problems. And that is where, so until we develop this skill of being able to transition whatever we know as mathematicians to solve problems, it will look like we're not appreciated. And if you want us to talk in details more later afterwards, please feel free to reach out. Thank you. All right. Any other questions?
Can I add something briefly?
Okay, please go ahead.
So I kind of empathize with the person that asked this question, because I know the world is talking about translational research now, but we do have to realize that to translate research, there are some people that would just be at the basic level of research. So as much as we emphasize applied research, translation, and all of these things, the area of basic research, and I still appreciate the fact that there are some grants right now that what they focus on is basic research. Before we can translate, there has to be some form of novelty. So basic research really is very tasking, because what you're going to be doing is to come up with novel solutions. Like the question that we asked previously, in terms of how do you, something that has never been done before, that is basic research. So in the area of mathematics, I happen to be married to a mathematician. In the area of mathematics, I asked him a lot of questions like, why do you people come up with X, Y, Z? What's your problem? What are you people looking for? He said one thing that stuck with me was that as a pure mathematician, most of the time when you're thinking about this concept and proofs, you're not really looking at it from the perspective of how is it going to be used. But somewhere down the line, you find out that this type of proof or something that you came up with becomes useful and just blows up all over the place. So I would want to say that as much as you think about translational applied research, and I mean, there are a lot of funding organizations that can, focus on mathematics is very, very, very important. So it might just appear that it's undervalued now because the world is focusing on translational research to solve problems. But please, that's probably even why I appreciate the Nobel Prize. When you look at Nobel Prizes are not awarded for translational research. It's awarded for basic research.
Exactly.
So basic research is very important. So keep up with your authenticity, your thought process, and even if at the end of the day you feel that, okay, remember that we build on that basics. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Okay.
The question I asked is actually not from my perspective, but because I've talked to a lot of undergraduates coming from Nigeria, and they're actually like speaking their mind about math. So like it's a very great privilege for me listening to the like high-level mathematicians that I'm meeting here, like giving me some kind of things that I can actually talk to them about. So because I've tried my best to convince them into like how how essential is the field of mathematics is nowadays and how it's applicable. Okay, there is an instance a student gave to me. We are in a class one day, and they actually need a result to solve a particular problem. So they gave us this problem. So the professor is actually expecting us to provide the answer. Me coming from Nigeria, I started putting my pen and paper, solving this problem, a very long problem. So before I know it, less than 4 minutes, the other white students have provided the answer. So, and they use it because they need the results. So they've used it instantly. And this man asked me, like, he's a Chinese professor. Like, he asked me, like, what are you doing, this man? I was like, I'm still solving the problem he asked us to solve. So after the class, he asked me to talk to him. Like, he said I should wait behind. So he said, I actually appreciate the fact that you can do this with paper and pen and everything. And that is how I was taught as well. But let's assume you are hired into a lab where you actually need a result instantly. So like you need to upgrade yourself with a lot of software. What does all these guys use? Instantly they give them the problem. They input it into the software, solve it for them, give the results, they use it, no wasting time. So, and that is what I'm actually trying to say, like, I'm kind of thinking about the future mathematician, especially my co-brothers from Nigeria, sisters doing mathematics right now. So like we need to let them know how essential software is, because it's becoming applicable like generation, not written solving problem anymore. It's good because all the reason and the brain behind all the software is critical written on papers as well. So we need it, but as well, we need to incorporate the software, how they use it, how everything is being used. So I was privileged to work with Dr. Derinu. He showed us a lot of things before I even graduated from undergraduate, and Dr. Alao and all other professors from math department in Lautech, actually. They show us many software. But how about others that are coming? So software, how to use it, it's really important. Not like, it's not restricted to maybe master's students or PhD students. Like maybe we should try and let like the undergraduate as well. Maybe they can actually appreciate what mathematics is. better.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for adding that. We have to close now. We are already 8 minutes behind schedule. So I would like to, if you have any question as a follow-up or you have some contribution, please, you can, type it on the WhatsApp group and we can, continue the conversation.
Okay.
For every one of us, our facilitators are also in the WhatsApp group. So if you have any question there, I'm sure they will answer you. And so we can continue conversation in the WhatsApp group because some people have to leave. It's already late in Nigeria as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Thank you for being a part of the first mentorship class. So please, I want to say look forward to the next one. Thank you. Have a great evening. Bye.